Hi guys, today I'm going to show you how to make the CDC face mask. The material you're going to need is 6x9, two pieces of fabric. They need to be 100% cotton. You also need to cut yourself two pieces of 7-inch elastic. I use the 1/4-inch braided elastic. It's skinny, it doesn't irritate the back of your ears, it's decent. And this is what we're going to end up making. Now you can use the same material for both sides. I choose to kind of give an option because, you know, people like to change up. But this one's my son's. He's got skulls. So you can make it for men or women or whatever. Larger men, I would suggest to use a 7x10 cut if they're really big. If they're not that big, you can do a 6x10, but they need the extra along the face because their faces are wider than ours. If you're doing little kids, what I did was I still did the 6x9, but I cut the elastic down to 6 inches instead of 7 inches so that it kind of fit their face better. If they're smaller than that, I would even go smaller with the measurements. But so what we're going to do is we're going to take these two pieces and we're going to put the pretty faces together so that the ugly parts are facing back to back. And what we'll do, sorry, I'm only using one hand here, so it's going to be a little funky. You're going to pin along the whole entire thing except for like a 2 to 3 inch space. You're going to leave so that you can invert everything once you're done, and all the ugly sewing and stitching can be on the inside and it looks nice and smooth and pretty and professional. So give me a second. I'm going to pin this and I'll be right back. So you see now it's pinned all the way around, and I left a 2 to 3 inch space here. I don't do it in the corners because we're doing the elastic there and it just makes for more work. But now what we're going to do is we're going to start sewing here, and we're going to go all the way over here, and I'm going to bring it over to the machine, and as I get it done, I'm going to show you what I'm doing. So this is how you're going to set it up. I always run the fabric along the edge of the foot of the sewing machine. Make sure you take out your pins. Don't run them over. You'll mess up your needle. You can hurt yourself. Not a good idea. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna sew all the way down to this corner. And before we get to this corner, we're gonna stop here and I'll show you the next step. So now we're at this corner and we're gonna take this pin out here. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna open this thing up, and we're going to put the elastic in between the fabric. So what we do is put it in between, and you're going to put it at an angle so it sits. Sorry, this is kind of hard with only one hand. Give me just a second here. We're going to take this and we're going to catty corner it like this. And you're going to shove the rest of it inside of here, and we're going to close this up and we're going to sew over it. Now that we've got it in place and it's inside there, we're going to go ahead and go over it. And I always back stitch a couple just to make sure there's a good hold on the elastic so it doesn't pop out if you pull it too hard. And then what we're going to do is once we do that, you're going to make sure the needle's inside the material. You're going to lift up your foot and you're going to turn your material so that you can start going down the next line. We're going to start sewing down this line. Make sure that your material is tight and go ahead and start sewing down. Don't forget to remove your pins before you get to them. I'll see you at the next corner. So when you get to this next corner, you're going to pull out the next pin, and you're also going to open this up and find that other piece of elastic, and you're going to bring it to this side, but make sure you run your fingers across it. Make sure it's flat so that it's not twisted, and you're going to put it in this corner, catty corner, just like you did the other one, and do the same sewing. This side's much easier because all you're going to do is just sew completely down until you get to about this last one here. Leave yourself a space so that you can go ahead and put that next elastic piece in there to put for the other side. I've already got my elastic catty cornered in there and set up. You're going to do the exact same thing that you did to the other side. You're going to shove the extra inside here. Just make sure that it's not on the edge so you don't sew over it. And go over this, make sure you back up and double stitch it so that it's nice and strong. Turn again while the needle's still in the fabric, and get it down. And you're going to go ahead and sew all the way along the bottom until you get to about the edge, so that you can go ahead and fish in there, get your elastic, make sure it's flat, and catty corner it and sew that one in as well. Now this is the last corner that you're going to do, and when you sew, again, remember you have to leave that space or else you can't invert this and make it right side in. So I suggest that you leave at least a 2-inch space, and sew right there. Make sure you back stitch a little bit just to make it stronger, and then I'll show you what you're doing next. So now you see there's a hole there, and we're going to take this whole thing and turn it right side in. So you're going to take all this and flip it. Now once you invert it, you're going to have to pull your corners and straighten everything out and get it nice and flat. And then I usually go over it with the iron just to make sure it's super flat, and then we'll go to the next step. So ironing at this point is also good, because that spot where you didn't sew, you can kind of make a nice clean crease and edge, so that when you do sew, because there's another set of sewing that goes around this entire thing, and it'll just set it in place so you can't even tell that it wasn't stitched before. Okay, so once you get it all flat and nice, and you see that there's a nice crease there now, it's not just bubbling over. So once I sew over it, it's going to be nice and pretty. What we're going to do is we're going to fold. We're going to do these folds and pin them. There's going to be 3 total, and it might take you a little bit to get it to where you want it. I usually do a bigger one on the bottom and then 2 smaller ones, because as you bunch it up, it gets kind of hard to sew. So you're going to be going through 4 layers of fabric at once. I'll show you what the first pinning looks like. So this is how you're going to pin it, and I'll show you the way to fold. You just fold it over just like this, and then pin it where you want it. Like I said, you're going to play with it a little bit until it looks the way you want it to. I also, afterwards, I make sure all the folds are in there, and I iron over it just to make it easier when I'm sewing again. I also wanted to note that once you start folding one way, you can't go back the other way. They all need to face the same way. So there's 2. You see how it's a little bit smaller than the other one, and again, it has to face the same way. So that's what it's looking like. And you're going to do this one more time. So there's going to be 3 pins on each side. So this is what it looks like with the 3 pins. You're going to have it on both sides, and it kind of looks uneven in the middle. But that's why I always take the iron and go over it and flatten everything out so it looks nice and conformed. And then we're going to go back to the sewing machine. You can start from whatever side you like. Just make sure that when you start on the corner, back it up a couple times. Again, this is going to reinforce the elastic, and it's just going to make it look nice and clean. And what you're going to do is you're going to run it all the way down, and I try to keep less than a 1/4 of an inch seam, but 1/4 of an inch seems good, and it's easier. Just try to keep it as even as possible all the way. And basically all you're going to do is sew here, you're going to turn, sew down, turn again, sew over here, and then you're going to sew up here, and then you're all done. Also, please don't forget to pull your pins. If your needle hits the pin, it could break off and hit you in your face or your body. It can do some serious damage. So make sure, and it can mess the machine up. So just make sure that you pull the pins. You see I already pulled the first pin, and it's already holding it in place with the foot. So we're good. And then once you're done, you're going to cut all your little pieces of extra little threading and stuff. I've already done it, and this is what it looks like. I'll show you when it's on my face. And that's what it looks like. If it's perfect, it covers everything, it's comfortable, I can breathe, and I have asthma and COPD, so restricted breathing is an issue for me, and these work out great. I hope you enjoy.